Hi and welcome to Momentum Basketball. Today we are going to analyze the shot mechanics of Marcus Eriksson, one of the best shooters in Europe. We're not going to do it to find a perfect way of shooting because there is none. There's been many shooters through the years shooting very differently, and there's not one way to shoot. But there are certain biomechanics and physics related to shot mechanics that you need to understand before you can apply it to yourself or someone that you're trying to develop the shot for. And that's why we're going to look at Marcus Eriksson. Marcus Eriksson is one of the premier shooters in Europe, and he's been so for a long time. He's currently playing with Alba Berlin, and previously to that, he used to play in the Spanish league for Herbalife Gran Canaria, being a sharpshooter also there. And prior to that, he was a very young player for Barcelona, ended up being drafted by the Atlanta Hawks, a career cut short due to an Achilles injury, and otherwise I am quite certain that he would have played in the NBA as of today. So Marcus is just a great shooter, great natural shooter. He's able to shoot on the move. He will be able to, with his very fluid, very rhythmic, very natural shot, get his shot off and be extremely accurate. But he has a certain type of shot mechanics that we are going to use to bring some of the myths down and talk about and learn about shot mechanics. And one of the things that we are going to address first when it comes to the shot of Marcus Eriksson is the myth of bending your knees before you catch the ball. That is just wrong. And the mechanics of this and the physics of this is that you should instead just aim for a high posture. So when you catch the ball, you will be able to bring the force of your body and your force of your body and your weight down into the floor, down into a downward motion, which can then be turned up into energy upwards, not utilizing some kind of push muscle energy, but the energy from the floor. That means you have to start high, then go low, and then up again. Here much it catches this upright, bends ever so slightly in the knees, and goes up with a shot. In order to utilize this energy from the floor, you have to release the ball before the peak. So I would say not 1-2 shooting, but start the release motion, much like Steph Curry, to use a familiar example, or Marcus, who has his feet in the floor before starting the release motion. Another thing that Marcus does is utilizes the turn. This is just a natural body movement for Marcus. He starts off with his feet square to the basket. He will end up almost 90 degrees to the left. Meanwhile, in this jump, aligning through the shot line with his elbows and the follow through. And that's the reason why the body will turn on the way up to the basket. And moving on, looking at Marcus shooting, we will also find out that he utilizes a not so strict elbow towards the basket. But on the other hand, he actually has his elbow out, much like Kobe Bryant learned on his later years that it was too strict, that too stiff to have it pointed directly towards the basket. So he put it out a little bit for a more fluent shot. And this is not a problem because Marcus will align in the shot line in the release motion with the turn, but it doesn't matter. The elbow can point a little bit out. What Marcus does to get his hand behind the ball is spread his finger very deliberately to get a bigger hand and be able to hold the ball with one hand and get his hand entirely behind the basketball and have the index finger in the middle of the ball. This is very important for Marcus' shot. So he doesn't have to utilize his guiding hand at all and can be very accurate with his release motion. An interesting part of Marcus' shot is that he utilizes a very, very big body space, meaning he brings the ball up with a large space between body and ball. That is something that a lot of people say you shouldn't. And it doesn't really matter because he uses this sling motion, this whip motion, like Luka Doncic does, or Larry Bird did, bringing the ball up far from the body, minimizing the angle to create the kinetic energy with elbow and wrist, and then sort of whip or slingshot the ball away, creating energy all through the kinetic chain from bottom up into ball in the air. Here we can see a large space, which a lot of people say is wrong, but it's not wrong if you utilize that kinetic energy. To summarize, go height low, have a high posture, then fall. Release the ball before the peak to utilize the energy. Use the turn if your body wants to. Don't worry about your elbow. Make your hands bigger to get it behind the ball and initiate energy with ball moving slightly before the body jump. Lift the ball intently, then come under ball and utilize the energy. That was all for today, and thank you for